I am so happy with how this looks for the Rangers. We have a pitcher, Jack Leiter, and he is a dude.
And while I do think his hitting is worse than Derek Jeter, it's not that far off.
You're not mentioning 2006. You can mention the other people, not 2006.
Oh, just because I bought the best soap doesn't mean your room's going to be clean. It just leaves it to where I don't believe that the Canadians had a shot.
I really don't like the Clippers just kind of sending it in when they're like...
Hi, this is Kelly Forbes with the Dallas Stars, and you're listening to Outsiders Opinions with Kevin and Austin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our NBA Opinions of the Week. It is another Mavs video, but it's not just because I was a fan. I have more thoughts and I'm more familiar with the situation because I was a Mavs fan until the Luka trade, and now I'm just kind of a Luka fan. But Austin, this is a really interesting thing just in general with the NBA because this team was in the NBA Finals. I believe they got better the following year, and then they took the central piece that everything was built around, and then they luck into another player who better fits the idea of defense than Luka in kind of what they are, if that makes sense. Like, they're not better with Luka, but it's Cooper Flagg's a great defender, and Luka's strength was not defense, it was offense, and Cooper Flagg is also good at offense, but
they're going to have the opportunity to fully buy into the defensive mantra and building a defensive team while still having good offensive players. Kyrie's going to be out probably until March-ish. He could be back by I think he'll be back by the All-Star game probably. But that's still not going to leave you much time for him to get game experience before the playoffs. And that's basically the trade deadline. So without Kyrie, you have to, in my opinion, what should be the Mavs plan, if you transplanted me and made me the Mavs GM right now, is to try to win now for half the year. And if you're a 6 seed or close to a 6 seed or higher, I wouldn't make any moves, because with the idea that Kyrie's either back, but just back, or will be back soon, and you will continue to win more and more games and actually make yourself a contender. And it would kind of heal the fan base if you won a lot this year. Cooper Flagg has that generational, like, he could be generational. There's not many guys that in recent drafts that have been generational. Obviously, you have Wembanyama. But before Wemby, I mean, the only guy that I thought could be generational is Zion. That's the only player I watched before the NBA, besides Wemby, and thought that guy could be generational. And Zion has his own problems outside of basketball. Zion on the court's a lot different than off the court, and Zion is a great basketball player, but he's not generational, right? Wemby is, and Flagg definitely has the potential to be. I mean, you look at him and say, if you told me Flagg's a top 10 player all time, let's just say he's the 8th best player all time by the time his career is over, I would say that's not crazy, right? That's not insane. You can say the same thing about Wemby, same thing about Zion when he was drafted. If you told me Zion when he was drafted is going to be a top 10 player all time, I would have said, you know what, I believe you. But because of that, he could be extremely good game one. And so this team could be very good. I would say that a big move, and this is what I was about to get to before we were recording, Kevin, is I think you have to trade Lively or Gafford, and it's probably going to be Gafford. I know AD doesn't want to play center at all, but he needs to play some center. Now, I would play Lively and AD a lot, or Gafford in idea if you went that way. I think Gafford's the trade, though, and you need to get a guard, a point guard, like an actual true point guard, to kind of carry over for the beginning of the season. Because at the beginning of the season, Flagg, you don't want you to be your primary ball handler. Is he a solid ball handler? Yes, we saw it at Duke, but he's not a solid passer at this point of his career. And that's okay because he's 18, 19 years old. But you do need a point guard. And whoever that is going to be a big turning point in the season, because if you have a bad point guard to start, well, it'll take a while to actually get into the flow of the offense, not just in the season, but in a game. What other moves would you make right now during the offseason, right after the draft or pre-draft?
Yeah, so kind of that you said it much better than I was saying. I just couldn't think of the right words. Because yes, they can be good now because this roster was just in the NBA Finals, but they have to do a lot of shifting, just kind of with personnel, and that is the guard because they were struggling. The Mavs were struggling with guards even when they had Luka and Kyrie, and they were carrying a lot of those minutes. Now you take out one of those pieces, and Kyrie's also gone. If I were trading Gafford, I would get a guard, but it wouldn't just be for this season; it'd be for the future, like a primary piece.
Can you actually
Or
do that though with only Gafford? That's my problem.
yeah,
I don't think you can. I think that you go with a stopgap this year in the hopes that AD and Flag's ball dominance is good enough to carry you through the majority of the season. And teams have won with just okay or solid rookie, or not okay or solid rookies, okay or solid ball handling point guards. I know, like Mike Conley this year. Mike Conley was solid this year, and he did everything the Timberwolves needed to do. He's not going to win you a game, but Mike Conley is never going to, rarely going to lose you one, right? And he can be an impactful player, make good plays, and obviously they need someone to fill in. Now, Kyrie will come back, like I said, by the trade deadline, probably. Maybe a little bit after that. And by the playoffs, if he's back to his normal self, that's a good window, right? Is that if he's back by February or whatever, he'll have enough time to get going. And if he's getting going by the playoffs, well, now you have 3-star players, right? Now you have, if Flag is this superstar player immediately, which he can be. He'd be the first rookie to be an All-Star since, I think, Blake Griffin in 2010. I think if he was an All-Star this year, they rarely give out All-Stars for rookies, even Wembanyama. But I would go for a stopgap point guard. You have Clay. You have some other pieces in there. What would you do though?
I think I would explore the Gafford option because I think you keep Lively, but if you can somehow keep Gafford and just sign a free agent point guard, that's sort of that stopgap. That could also work because
Do they have the money to do that?
I think they could. I do think they have the money because people have talked about minimums and getting point guards.
Well,
That's what I've seen.
minimums don't affect the cap.
Okay. So I do think they would be able to do that. Some people are wanting about Dennis Smith Jr. A lot of people have like floated hopes of Chris Paul. But one person that I think is interesting is I know you're not a huge fan of him, is former point guard, Wizards point guard that was now on the Phoenix Suns, who kind of bet on himself and it didn't work out. Oh man, I'm trying to remember his name. Tyus Jones. He'll be a free agent.
Tyus
And
Jones,
that's
okay.
someone you could do on a minimum deal and be a stopgap guy without having to trade Gafford. But the key thing of why they need to be good now is I'm sure you're familiar with it somewhat, but after this year, how many picks do the Mavs just outright own? There's no pick swaps, just picks in general. I will tell you from 2026 to 2029, I'm looking at fanspo.com. There are no second round picks listed
So
belonging
it's
to the
just
Mavs. Just
so
first
I'm
round
just
picks.
guessing first round picks.
Yeah. And
So
they outright
okay,
known.
outright own
Yeah, like
from
no pick swaps.
2026 to what? 2026
to
to
let's go 2030.
2030? Is it 2?
Yeah. Not even 2. Unless you want to count the Lakers pick they received in that Luka Doncic trade.
Yeah. That's what
Okay.
because they outright own that pick, right?
Yeah.
Don't they?
Yeah. There's
Okay,
no
that's what
protections. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So
that's what I was
they have.
counting. It's next year's first, right?
Yep.
And the Lakers pick. I don't remember what year that is.
2029. And then it says 2029 they have their own, but Houston will receive the 2 most favorable of its own 2029 first round pick. I think this came from Brooklyn. That pick, that 2029 pick was from
Okay.
when the Mavs traded for Kyrie Irving. then somehow when Brooklyn traded with Houston, they got the pick.
Got it.
So, but the thing is, they won't get their own pick. So let's say, and this really matters in 2028 because I'm not sure if you know who owns his 2028 pick. The Mavs will have a first round pick. However, OKC has the right to swap.
That's from Lively, right?
No, that's actually from the Gafford trade.
Okay. Don't know who was involved in that besides the players that the Mavs and Wizards traded.
The Thunder sent something to the Wizards. I think it was that current pick, that year pick.
Okay.
So, but then, let me see. The Wizards got a 2024 first round pick from the Mavs via the Thunder. And the Mavs traded a future first, or did a pick swap with the Thunder to send a current pick to the Wizards.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. The Mavs have no cap. Like they are, and if you do the first apron, they have $819,000 until they hit the first apron, and they have $12 million, and so until the second apron. Now I'm sure they have a mid-level exception in there that they can use, but they could probably sign a mid-level exception guy. Man, and then you have if you want to go to the second apron, but are they going to go to the second apron? I highly doubt that because we know what that is now. Do you remember? It is a harsh penalty.
But yeah, so I bring up all the picks because let's say this year they do well. The following year, in 2 years, Kyrie's probably going to be aged out. Same thing with Anthony Davis. Same thing with Clay. You don't have a lot to put around Flag with what you have. You would have to.
PJ Washington, I think, also next year is his last year.
Yes.
I understand.
Yeah, and I think Gafford as well. So that's the thing where I personally, for the Mavs, this is where I get confused with the Nico thing because his ego has been shown to affect the trade. I view that's what the Luka trade was, which was his ego getting hurt and trading him away. Even though he did get a good player in Anthony Davis, it just makes zero sense anyway on a basketball level. Because if you trade someone that away, you get a lot of picks back, so then you're not in this problem, and then you luck in the Flag. That's a huge, great offer, but that didn't happen. So that leads us to, I don't think when it comes to the trade deadline, as you're talking about, Nico's going to look at, okay, I need to let go of Anthony Davis. I need to trade Kyrie. I need to trade Clay and get future assets back. And for anyone wondering, they don't have their future assets because they made a lot of trades to make the Mavs team better with Luka. So that's why it doesn't make sense. If you're trading away guys and building a team around a guy, why would you trade the guy the team is built around? So I don't think Nico as a GM is going to look at it in a unbiased view. Where if you're looking at it, you're like, okay, I need to get picks so then I can still be good. Because they do have the hard part if Flag lives up to the hype or is close to a superstar level player. If he doesn't reach all the hype, you have the hard part down. It's just building a team around that, and you need picks for that is the best way to do it instead of doing trades, because that's kind of what the Mavs did with Luka.
Yeah. I will say that it's a lot easier to build around Flag than it is Luka, because Luka needs a certain type of player to be around him, while Flag is, I think, can be ball dominant, but he can also just be a defensive guy when you need it, and that's easier to build around. There's a lot more avenues to actually winning. But they're going to have a lot of problems building this season, and like you said, the next year, 26-27, you're still going to have 80 on roster. I think his contract is still there, but you lose Kyrie. I think you still have Clay that year. I think Clay has 2 years left on his contract as we're speaking. Then you lose Gafford, you lose PJ, you lose some other names. But you'll gain some cap space because Kyrie's gone, but Kyrie's gone, right? So I don't know if you really want that. And then, like I said, this year, I mean, you basically have a full roster. Let me count. Let me go on spot check real quick.
Yeah, I think they would be. So it's just really difficult to navigate. So personally, I do think you go with the plan of what they should do is wait till the trade deadline. But to me, they have to be exploring all options, not just win now. It's like, what is the best direction? If you're not doing well, you have to make that decision quick. Because
how many draft picks do they have in this draft?
This draft, they only have the number 1 overall pick.
Oh, okay, I didn't know if they had any seconds.
Nope.
So yeah, okay. With that pick, they'll have 14 guys on the roster, which is allowed. But you can only have 13 to the active, if that makes any sense. So you can have 15 on your team, so they don't have to cut anybody. But with the flag contract, now that doesn't affect the cap, or it affects the cap, but you can't go over the cap with a rookie contract. It's kind of like the Bird deal stuff, but yeah, they're going to be in a tough spot, and I would trade Gafford, and probably trade, let's for example say, Caleb
you could trade
Martin.
Jaden Hardy, or what?
The problem with Hardy is, do you still hope that he can be that guard that can be good?
That's true.
I guess he does have enough. He has enough potential that you could be like, hey, we need someone to actually give up, so that's actually wanted by other teams or has some value. But I do wonder whether or not they believe in him enough. I wouldn't hate trading him though, because last year he was disappointing. But if you did a package of, or maybe just multiple deals where there's Jaden Hardy, Caleb Martin, and Daniel Gafford, or maybe you don't want to get rid of Martin because you just traded for him. Sure, we'll go Gafford and Hardy. You could clear $20.5 million in cap, depending if you just went for picks. But you wouldn't just go for picks. You'd probably go for an aging veteran guard and a pick, probably. It's just what team wants. I mean, a lot of teams want Gafford. I think a team that would really use Gafford the best is Oklahoma, Oakland, the Warriors. Golden State could really use a center, and Gafford's kind of that perfect amount of money that they could make it work. The problem is, do they have a guard? I mean, you could trade for let me check them real quick. Is Moses Moody? I think Moses Moody would be an interesting option.
I think the Lakers could try to trade for Gafford.
Sure, but I feel like Mavs fans would be against that because it's kind of just like giving Luka everything that he wants, and Luka's not already on the team. So just be like, are we just giving the Lakers everything? Actually, the Lakers, or not the Lakers, the Warriors. Yeah, you could trade for Moody. It's just, is he that guard you really want? There's a good bit of other teams that need centers. So there's definitely a market for Gafford and Hardy. It's just whether or not those both go to the same team, and then what guard could you really get realistically to help your team out.
Yeah, it's just a tricky spot, and that's why I don't think Nico is looking at it in the right way. So first, I would get a new GM just from a basketball standpoint. It would also help your image because you just need new eyes on this thing. But what we'll have to see. I'll let you close this one out.
Yeah, thank you all for listening. Please let us know what you guys think the Mavs should do, whether they should just trade a lot of their stuff now and just build around flag and commit to the future, or if they really should try to win this year.